So, welcome to part 2 of this miniseries on how to set up your own study routine. Now, part 1 was on setting your goals, and those would be both short-term goals and long-term goals. So if you haven't watched that one, I would highly suggest going back and watching it before you come back to this one, especially since setting your goals is going to be very important for the things that we move forward with in the future episodes. This episode is going to be on planning your own day, and there are a few ways that you could do this. You could do this the analog way, where you would write stuff down, have it on a timetable or on the whiteboard, which I used to have. You could do it like that, or you could do it digitally. Now, if you do it digitally, there are a few apps that you could use. One suggestion that I have is that you use Notion. Now, I'm not actually going to show you Notion, but I just know that a lot of other people use Notion and that they really like it. But I instead prefer to use Fabulous, which is an app on my phone. I'm going to be showing you that later on, but I prefer using that. Now, Fabulous lets you add in your own habits, and you sort of just go through it like a checklist. And you could definitely do this with Notion as well. And actually going through it and checking off the things that you do, especially if you manage to do it before the allotted time, is just so incredibly satisfying. At least for me, leaves me with a lot of energy, and it makes me feel like, okay, I'm doing something really good. And the way that Fabulous works is that it doesn't actually leave me feeling bad about myself if I don't do it one of the days. It's just an extra burst of energy for the days that I actually manage to do the things that I set out to do. Now, what I would suggest starting off with when you're creating your own daily routine is I would suggest starting off with a time that you set aside to spend with your friends. What this does is, let's say that you have a lot of studying that you need to do, you have a lot of chores, you have a lot of stuff that you need to do every single day. You end up doing those things and then looking forward to the time that you're allowed to spend with your friends. So as long as I make that time really visible, either in your own head or by actually mapping it out or by leaving clear spaces, then you're going to be doing a lot better in terms of that. And let's say that you managed to do something early, then yeah, you now have more space, but you should have those clear spaces where, okay, this is time that I'm supposed to be spending relaxing or spending time with my friends, whatever it is. Just make it something that you look forward to and have those clear. Have it really obvious for yourself. Now, this is actually a mental shift, and it really just makes it a lot easier for you to get through the things that you have to do. And it just helps in terms of added structures, just having it clear that, okay, I'm spending time doing something that isn't necessarily productive, but I'm doing it within the time frame that I've set aside, and I've actually done everything else that I needed to do beforehand. Then you come to the second part of this, which is setting aside time to do the things that you have to do every single day. This could be working on things for the university or doing a job. I don't particularly know what stage of life you're in, but just setting aside time for that. It could also be stuff like cleaning your room, cleaning your apartment, which is things that I need to do every single day. I'm doing a little bit every single day, which just makes it easier for me and I don't feel overwhelmed. But these are things that I do every single day, and that turns them into habits, and it also makes it a lot easier to get through them, and it also makes your day way more predictable. At least for me, that is something super valuable. Actually having a predictable day where I know what is going on, where I know what's happening, and I can sort of follow it intuitively. Now, it won't be the same for every single day. I'll be showing you a bit more on that later on. But some days you have stuff that you need to do for that day, which you don't have to repeat for every single day. Other days, you'll have all of these things. It just depends on what fits your daily routine, but that's the beauty of at least using Fabulous, because you can set the separate days, or whenever you add a task, you're able to set what days you want that task for. So for instance, at the moment, I'm recharging my watch. So that means that I'll have my watch recharged right up until Monday. And then I'll recharge it, and it will last for 4 or 5 days, and then I'll recharge it again. But I'm doing that on repeat, but I don't have to do it every single day. It's just something simple like that. Now, if you have all of these things set up, then you can finally start adding in time for your language studying or university. It just depends what you need help with fitting in time for. But what I do is I see, for instance, okay, in the morning, I usually have a 2-hour free block. Okay, I'm going to set aside that time for studying, but I'm actually just going to be studying for 1 hour. At least that's what I would start with. And then I'm free to change that later on, but I would definitely just start with 1 hour. And there is a very good reason for this. Now, at least in the beginning, it takes you a bit of time actually moving in between tasks and such. And this is why I feel like you can go back and change these, like the way that you divide up your time later on. But I would suggest starting it off this way. But at least in the beginning, it takes you a bit of time to move between these tasks. And also, there are times where it's just not interesting for you, or you just can't seem to force yourself to get through. Let's say that you had 2 hours and you set aside 2 hours for it. That is very difficult to start with on those days where you're not feeling motivated to actually study. Now, if you instead set that time as an hour, it is a lot easier for your brain to think, okay, I'm going to do this for 1 hour and then I'm free to do something else, than thinking, okay, I'm going to be stuck here for 2 hours. 2 hours is a lot longer than 1 hour, especially if you're not liking it. So the shorter you make the time that you actually have to do it, the easier it is going to be to start on those days where you aren't feeling particularly motivated. Same is true if you have 1 hour. Set aside half an hour that you have to be doing it, place it in the middle, and then on days where you're not liking it, then stop after that half an hour. On days where you're actually really enjoying it, keep going if you have the time. It's completely fine. And then you can feel free to, whether you feel like you need to challenge yourself or something else comes up that makes you feel like you should change up your routine, then you can do that later on. But this is how I would suggest starting off. Now, here is how my current routine looks, and mine is sort of a mix of Portuguese and English, but still, this is just for me, so as long as I find it understandable, then no worries. I'm actually doing the things at least, and it helps me stay focused. I also have a bit more of leeway when it comes to the time that I'm setting aside for my friends. And then you'll also notice that I have stuff under En breve, or soon, which is those are things that I need to do some days, like I mentioned, but I just don't have to do them every single day. Like recharging my watch. Today happens to be a day where I have to recharge my watch, but during other days, that would be something that was added under En breve. Now, the next part of this mini-series is going to be on choosing your methods, and there are a few helpful things that I want to point out in that episode. So if you think that that might be interesting or helpful, then feel free to stick around. And I also have a few other videos on other things, so it might be worth having a look at the other videos that I've posted so far, and look out for the things that are coming in the future. As always, best of luck with your studies, and neck out.